Welcome to this tutorial on how to quickly make a research poster in PowerPoint. The first step is to open PowerPoint and go to File, New or New Presentation. And the next step is you don't want to start in the default new file. You want to go to File, Page Setup, and you're going to want to use a custom size and then choose a width and a height that matches your poster requirements. So a common one in the USA is a poster that is 54 inches wide and 40 inches tall. So I'm going to use that standard preset and click OK. And you want to click Scale. This doesn't really matter for the moment because I don't have any content on my poster. And you just want to delete the text boxes that are there. And what you now have is your own poster blank canvas that you can use to start to add all the text and figure elements for your poster. To make the design go faster, you can also download this free PowerPoint template from my website, and that's under Templates, and you go to Free Templates, and you can pick the poster to download for free. And this can make the design go a lot faster if you already know you're going to design a poster with very similar elements. And you can always change this template to match different poster sizes by also going to File, Page Setup, and changing this from 54 to 40 to whatever your dimensions are, and moving all of these design elements around. So I'm going to use this template as an example, as well as just examples of how to do a poster for the first time or create your own original poster. So we'll have these side by side for part of the tutorial. And keep in mind, when you're first deciding what's going to go on your poster, you're going to want to make it really clear with all the text elements that you're going to use, that somebody can read it. And when you're choosing text elements, you're going to want to choose a font that is very easy to read, such as Arial or Helvetica. Those are my top two preferred fonts. And you're going to want to choose different sections to have font sizes, like the title should be around 80-point font, I find works very well. The subtitle font, I like to use a 48. Internal font, you can use anywhere from 20 to 34. I would say if you go any bigger than 34, sometimes that's a bit too big. If you're going any smaller than 24, I don't recommend that for the main content of your poster, but you can go as low as 18 for smaller sections like your acknowledgement section. Just don't go any lower than 18-point font for a legible poster. You will also want to have an idea of the overall design or layout of your poster before you start adding objects. And one of my favorite easy ways to design a poster is to use it as a draft for your publication, where you're drafting your abstract and your conclusions and even your figures on the poster. And this can be a really great way to have a simple layout that you can also get feedback as you're trying to figure out all the figures you may need for a potential publication. So I do love that this is a very simple way to organize a poster, and there's many different ways you can do it, but this one is very effective and fast. If you want to start from scratch, then the easiest thing to do is to start by adding text boxes, by finding text box in your PowerPoint, and your PowerPoint may not give you the exact settings that you see here. There are many different versions of PowerPoint depending on the one you have on your computer and whether you have a PC or Mac. But just know that if you use this menu to look at Home, you should have access to almost every tool you need. Insert should also be valuable, but usually Insert and Home are really all you're going to need when you're creating a poster. So start with text box and start by putting text boxes in the places where you want to have text, and know that you are going to have to change them from this default to something like Arial. Change the font style and size and begin mocking up all of the elements for your poster. Now, There's lots of text tools and arrangement and align tools that you're going to use to make sure everything is centered. But just know that the sky's the limit. You can make a poster with any of these arrangements that you want. Once I have one box for text set, I usually just copy and paste using Command C and Command V, changing this so that I have subtitles and titles, and I zoom in to see my poster better, and I'll make this a little bigger for my subtitle. And you can just begin to lay out, copying and pasting the different sections that you want. You can lay out the paragraph text, whether that paragraph text you want it to be filling the space or left adjusted, bold or non-bold, and again, the sizes. And just start to add the elements that you know you're going to need. That's an easy way to start drafting. Now, when it comes to adding things like lines to your poster, you're going to want to use the shape tool and use the line tool for the shapes. Now, when you have a line tool, you're going to hold Shift if you want to have a perfectly horizontal, vertical, or 45-degree line. Release. And then for every element that you add that is not a text symbol, you can right-click it and format the shape to start to get this menu. Now this again may look a little different depending on your version of PowerPoint, but know that you are almost always going to, especially for posters, need to change from the default settings to make this a much thicker line, usually a minimum of 3, but sometimes even up to 8 if you're trying to make a really nice bold line. It can be 16 if you're looking for really bold. I wouldn't go much higher than 16 because that's a line that will stand out and possibly stand out more than your data. So know that you want to be a little conservative when it comes to things that you don't want the eye to focus on. And you're going to want to adjust the color, most likely, from this default bluish color, and keep your color theme consistent. Maybe you want just gray lines, maybe you have a red poster, whatever your design is. Put those design elements on there to create sections of your poster. And again, if you wanted to skip some of these steps and do want to use lines, know that I do already have this in the template for you. Now, if you're going to add things like images, for example, replacing these logo boxes or adding logos to the poster, you may need to use Insert, Pictures, and then choose a picture from a file you've downloaded. I rarely use online pictures. These are usually cheesy. I usually look for my copyright-free image or my university logo image and then download it to my computer and then upload it from the file. But be aware that you can sometimes drag and drop images onto the poster. It just depends on the file size. So you can drag and drop images in here, or you can go ahead and, if it's not working, use that Insert, Picture, Picture from File. If you want to add scientific illustrations to your poster, you can use PowerPoint shapes, icons, and 3D models to add things like gene expression models where you add a shape. If you don't see the menu to start changing or formatting the shape, know that you can always right-click the object and go to Format Shape to see the settings and change all the colors. Let's make this a yellow with a black outline. It can be labeled Gene 1. You can add text and alter that text font color and style and size so it's able to be read. And you can add arrows by going to Shapes to do gene expression models. Just know that you are going to have to, especially for the poster sizes, choose the arrow types, choose sizes that will actually show up on a poster. So just be aware there is going to be some editing to do. You may need to edit multiple things to make it look right. when you're using tools directly from PowerPoint, it tends to look a little chunky, but you can get there if you manipulate some of the width features and get to know what's an option to show different methods and different gene expression illustrations. If you're looking to get a little more complex with your illustrations, you can also consider downloading templates or creating your own illustrations in tools like Adobe Illustrator. So I do have some templates in Adobe Illustrator where if I wanted to customize, let's say this was cancer research and I wanted to customize this cancer growth model, I can potentially be going in and customizing cell colors, cell shapes, and that's something that is a little bit more advanced. If you're not comfortable using tools like Adobe Illustrator, Affinity Designer, or Inkscape, where you can edit vector files, you can also use templates that are in PowerPoint and use templates to really make it easier for you to make more impressive graphics. So if I use the PowerPoint files from the biological diagram template, I can simply copy, paste, hold shift while I size them up, and add the illustrations to my poster to explain conclusions or methods or whatever I'm trying to illustrate on the poster. So there's many different ways to add your scientific illustrations, and it just depends on which tools you're most comfortable working with and your goals for your poster. Now, to add data to your poster, the two most common methods are you can go directly from your graphing software. For example, if I were to use Excel, I could take my data, I could try to copy all these elements of my graph and then put it into the PowerPoint, or I could just change this so that it has a white background, a white fill, and I can take my screenshot tool in a Mac, which is Command-Shift-4, to get this little cursor, take a screenshot. If you're on a Windows PC, you can also use the snipping tool to do the same thing. So I can use copy paste, but for poster sizing, I do recommend it actually is much easier just to take a screenshot of your data, which creates an image of that screenshot on your desktop. You can label this graph 1 or whatever the graph is, and then bring it into your poster for sizing. And it usually ends up being high resolution enough for a poster, as long as you have made it large enough in your Excel or other graphing file. Now, this is one of the more simple ways to add data to your poster, and a more sophisticated way might be to take full formatted figures from PowerPoint or using tools like Adobe Illustrator, where you can make all of your formatted graphs, export these artboards that are in my Adobe Illustrator file, and use those exported files to then add the elements. And now this is that point I wanted to make where sometimes the images, they're so large where I can't add the object how I want. So I may want to instead go to Insert, Pictures, Picture from File, make sure I have my file name, Insert, and then that will allow me to insert my figures and then format them on my poster file. After you've completed your designs, you will hopefully have a poster that looks something like this, and you may not have as much data as this if you're starting your PhD, so maybe you want to replace this top section with just methods, but regardless of what you've put on your poster, there are some final formatting things you want to do before exporting. And the final formatting I recommend is to make sure that all of the objects, both text, figure, and illustration elements, are perfectly centered and aligned. And what I mean by this is if your title, let's say it's accidentally been clicked and shifted, you can use the Arrange tool to then align back to center, where if I've only selected this one text object and I use Align to Center, it will align it to the slide. So that will center it, and then I can use my arrow keys or drag it, but usually I like the arrow key if I've already centered it so I don't accidentally drag it out of center, to place things in perfectly centered locations. So I want to make sure all this is perfectly centered. I want to make sure that if I've accidentally moved a subtitle, that I can actually easily align it by clicking while holding Shift, a second object using Arrange, Align Left to get these to align perfectly on the left. Click, hold Shift, click this next object, Arrange, Align, Align to bottom. So these are perfectly aligned on the bottom. So just do that final check to make sure alignment is professional and looks good. And finally, you're going to want to check the margins to make sure there's at least 1 inch between the edge of the poster and any of your text or objects within the poster. One way you can do is you can use shapes to insert a shape to test that. As you can see, if I hold and resize this box, the width is 1.6 or around 1.61 inches between the edge of the poster and any of these elements. So you're going to want to go around all edges of the poster and just make sure that there is at least 1 inch. And some printers may have different requirements. So double check the requirements of your printer first so that ensures that you won't get any of your elements accidentally cropped off when the printer puts your image through their process. After the poster formatting is finalized, you are now ready to export the poster for printing. And to do this, you want to go to File, and I do recommend saving a copy, making sure you know where this raw PowerPoint file lives and what its name is, and then using Export, so File, Export, to save this as a PDF. And there are some other options for file format. Sometimes, very rarely, I've seen them require a TIFF image, but PDF is usually the setting you're going to want for your PowerPoint poster. And you click Export. I'm going to replace mine because I've already saved a copy. Know that if you're saving multiple drafts, you may want to rename them. For me, I'll replace my current copy. And this exported PDF is now ready to send to the printer. You've now reached the end of this Research Poster PowerPoint tutorial. Thanks for watching and have a great day.